Did you know there's a whole industry where people buy and sell mortgage notes and collect the payments? And there's a platform where they do it. Hey, I'm Rebecca. Thanks for joining me on the Mom Malorian Way, where I'm a mom, literally in my kid's bedroom, learning how to create wealth for my family and sharing what I do, what I learn as I go along. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe, share, make a comment. Every little bit of support helps the channel. So today I want to talk about a platform called Paperstac.com, where people who buy and sell mortgage notes connect to trade. And first, little overview of this. So mortgage notes, when you go to the bank and you get a loan for your house, a lot of times the bank will actually sell your mortgage down a secondary market to other banks, and sometimes they drift down to individual investors, and they can buy and sell, trade their mortgage notes with other note investors. And there is a platform called Paperstac.com that helps them do it easily. So let's dive in and share my screen. All right, so I'm going to dive into Paperstac.com. So here we are, Paperstac.com. It's a modern way to buy and sell mortgage notes online. We'll look at the assets in a second, but what they offer is an easy access to inventory. So if you have a note, they're called notes, that you want to sell, you can upload the information to the platform, and then buyers that are looking to buy notes or mortgage notes to be able to collect the payments can see what you have to offer. Everything is online. Now, a disclaimer, I have done interactions with them. I know that this is totally online, and it's actually pretty gosh darn easy. There is a cost to it. You pay a small fee, $250 minimum, up to 1% of the mortgage note. So if you're selling something that's $100,000, the fee would be $1,000. But the fee does cover FedEx shipments, audit reports, online notary. So everything really is online. And they will make the documents called the collateral. They will form that properly to be able to make the transaction totally legal. That's all included in the fee. It's well worth it. So how online closings work, they're called closings when you sell a mortgage note or you buy a mortgage note, just like when you're doing a house. There's a transaction timeline which they record. So if you ever have to be audited or the transaction needs to be audited, it's recorded there. Everything you say to the buyer and or seller is there, so they are making sure that no one is kind of scamming anybody else. There's a dynamic to-do list, which means if you're buying something, it tells you if you do this one thing, this is your next step in the process. If you're buying, you need to do this next step in the process. It's very user-friendly. And then they have an escrow and an audit process that no one is sending money directly to each other. You send it to an escrow agent, and then once all the collateral, all the formal documents are signed and everything's legit, then the money is released to the seller. Let's look at what assets look like. I'm going to view assets for sale. So mortgage notes for sale. I'm going to go through a little bit. They have a listing type single asset or an asset pool. So you can either buy a single note or a group of notes called a pool. Sometimes it's more worth your while to buy several, and sometimes you're like, I'm just a onesie person today. Lien position. So mortgage notes are either in a first position, like when you buy a house, usually that first big chunk of loan is a first lien. So it's ahead of any other liens behind it as far as collection. So if the homeowner goes into bankruptcy, the first lien is ahead, meaning they're going to collect first before anybody else. Second lien may be like a home line of credit, home equity line of credit, second mortgage, a home improvement loan. It follows the lien. So say a house had $100,000 first lien. It was foreclosed on for $120,000. That first $100,000 would go to the first lien. $20,000 would go to any other liens behind it. Performing or performance. So it can either be performing, meaning the homeowner is paying regularly on the loan, or non-performing, meaning the owner has defaulted for whatever reason, and these notes generally go for cheaper. You have to go in, know what you're doing. Definitely know what you're doing. That's a whole nother video to get the homeowner able to start paying on a loan and make it performing again. Note type. types are real quick. Mortgage is, in some states, they call this a mortgage. Some states, the lien is called, or the loan is called a deed of trust. It's just, on that is just verbiage. What it means is a homeowner owns the title to the house, and they have put up the house as collateral for the notes. So if they don't pay, the house can be foreclosed on. It's collateral. Contract for deed, a little bit different. It's not super common anymore, but in that, the bank still has title to the house, and the homeowner, the person living in the house at that point, doesn't get title to the house until the entire loan is paid off. You can also filter by state, seller, if there's a seller that you like a lot, price, property value, etc. I'm just going to go in and take a look at how you read it. Performing first, it's in first position. It's 20,000 UPB, unpaid balance at a interest rate of 6%. Property value, probably from a broker, or maybe sometimes we do it from Zillow. 46,000 in DeKalb, Texas. Each state, Texas is a good place to own notes just because of how they're actually slanted in the favor of the bank or the mortgage owner. Solid performing asset, third-party services with Madison. So you need to have a servicer for your loans. Madison Management is a third-party servicing, and so they do all the loan collecting, or they don't have a relationship. They have interaction with the homeowner, and then as a note investor, you would have more of your contact with Madison. When you go through it, it's a first position, performing, it's a mortgage. No bankruptcy here. Unpaid principal balance, this is the UPB. Loan to value, so how much loan is left in the value percentage. This is pretty good. The original balance, what it started at. Total payoff, so it's a little bit higher than the unpaid principal balance, means there may be some arrears or something going on. So that is the total amount that you could collect as a note holder. 37 payments remaining, so about 3 more years on this. Principal and interest payment, how much they're paying per month, $605. There's a few other things. Judicial and non-judicial means this particular state is foreclosure goes through a judicial process or a non-judicial. In Texas, it's mostly non-judicial. List price, $17,000. So the list price is always going to be lower than the unpaid balance because that's how note investing works. They're sold at a discount. How much is the discount? Well, it depends. First position loans are worth more than second position. Performing loans are worth more than non-performing loans. When you see something, it's also listed by the seller, and so you may start to have a relationship with a seller. I know most of the sellers on this, I will say. And if you're interested, you can message the seller and say, hey, what about blah, 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 whatever questions you have, and that you can start messaging. It goes through the Paperstac platform. You can make an offer. You don't have to say, you know what, this is a set price. You can bargain with them depending what other things you find out. You can accept the current price, or you can say, you know, I'd rather have an investment to value or investment to balance of, let's say, 70%. And then your price might drop because that's what you want to pay to $14,000. You can make a counter offer. They can say yes, no, go away. I'll talk to you, whatever. So that's how you start to look at it. If once you get into your transaction, you go to a timeline. I don't think I can share my timeline because there's personal information on it, but it does look like this timeline down here. Whatever you talk, whatever you pass on to a buyer or a seller, it goes through your timeline and also on your to-do list. I hope that's kind of interesting. It may be a world that you've never even heard of, note investing. Again, paperstac.com. Interesting way to dive into it. And I have had certain dealings with the owner, Brett. He's very, very, very responsive and will answer any of your questions. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. Just saying. Anyways, thanks for joining me. I'm Rebecca. Please, again, like, subscribe. Every little bit helps. And see you on the next one.